This is the Ezra breakdown, and we are doing the event. We are doing Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia. I wanted to do this last week, but I ended up spending the whole week watching film on the fight. I kept seeing new avenues and new things for both guys in which they really could take advantage of this fight. This is a fight that I think kind of gets downplayed within the rep of what Ryan Garcia has as more of a celebrity, as more of an influencer. People see him and don't really see him as like a legit contender in the 135 pound, 140 pound weight division. So kind of the fight is kind of, people understand that they want to see it, they want to have a party for it, but I don't think anyone really takes this as like not anyone, but I don't think a lot of people take this like seriously. I think a lot of people take this as just two stars, just star power, almost kind of like a Jake Paul fight, almost kind of like Logan Paul versus Mayweather. And it's weird that fight has that vibe to it, because the way I break it down is I think Ryan Garcia is the most gifted guy that Shakur, Haney, or Tank have ever been in the ring with, right? To this point, when this fight happens, this would be the most gifted guy that either of them have ever been in the ring with. And I would favor him over any of the guys that those guys have fought to this point. So if you say that, right, as for any opponent, then you should be excited for the matchup, not just because it's an event, but because it's an interesting matchup. It's a matchup that he can win, because if you say that, that means that these guys have not been in with this level. And this is going to be something not only new for Ryan to see, right? He's never seen the level of Tank before. He's never been in the ring with someone as good as Tank. But I don't think Tank's ever been in the ring with anyone as gifted as Ryan, right? He's never dealt with that speed or power before in his career. So he will be seeing something new as well. So let's get to the breakdown. And you know me, I'm gonna pull the guys up right here, and we're gonna get into it. Now, how I see the fight kind of starting out is kind of how a lot of Tank fights start out, right? I think Ryan's gonna come forward. I don't think he's gonna be balls to the wall with it. I think that he's gonna be cautious, but he's going to be looking to, be explosive early. I don't think he's going to hesitate or anything like that. I think he's just going to come out there and look to react to what Tank does. And I think Tank is going to fight very negatively. If you notice, a lot of the things that Tank has said in the build-up for this fight has been a lot of relying on his experience, or relying on his ability in the second half to fight, or the ability to make adjustments, or kind of letting the guy slow down and then him start picking up and making the reads that he needs to make and adjustments he needs to make. He's continuously said this, and I think that a lot of times fighters kind of give away what they're going to do. I don't know why, but they just kind of give in tells of what they're going to do, and I think that's smart to do. I don't think Tank should explode in this fight right away. I don't think he should come out guns blazing and looking to catch Ryan right in the chin. I think a lot of people expect him to catch Ryan early, or be able to catch Ryan with ease, and I think that they know, and if you're Tank's trainers, you know that's going to give Ryan his best opportunity in the fight. So I expect Gervonta Tank Davis to move around Ryan, fight the way he's fought basically everyone in the early rounds, of just moving around, not really giving them spots, getting your feel, getting your reads. He's not the best as far as moving and working off that movement. So when he moves, he kind of overly moves, right? He overly moves out of the spot. He's not really setting up big shots, and he does this purposely early. He just wants to see what you got. He's trying to get a feel for what you do, and he's also likes for guys to slow down. So he knows the guys are not used to being in fights like that. He knows the guys are tentative, or they're overly excited, they're anxious, and they're also going to be aggressive, right? They feel like Tank is taking the back step, and you're putting the aggression on him. You probably feel good about yourself, so you're probably going to let go more offense. And a lot of guys slow down by the time Tank catches your speed, he catches your timing and catches your patterns. You're also slowing down a little bit, right? You're also not in the same gas tank, so he's also be able to take advantage of that. So I believe that's what you're going to see with Tank. I don't think you're going to see Tank take a lot of chances early. I don't think you're going to see him try to give Ryan a lot of opportunities early. Now, even though he moves like that in the first round, doesn't mean he's unhittable. Tank is still hittable. And if you watch fights with Isaac Cruz, watch Rolly Romero, if you watch Mario Barrios, Leo Santa Cruz, all these fights, even Hector Garcia, they all land early, right? They all land early. Like, Rolly Romero lands a lot, and he lands the left hook a lot early, right? And he's allowed to be the aggressor in that fight. Now, does Tank adjust in all these fights? Does he end up catching all these guys? Yes, and he ends up beating them. And a lot of guys say, oh, well, Tank depends a lot on his power. And the thing is, if you're really honest about it, well, he ends a lot of fights, right? When he starts landing, the fights usually start to end. But I don't think that means that he was needing the power to win the fight. I think that at that point, he was going to take control of the fight. So by the time fifth and sixth round, he takes control of the fight, it's going to be all Tank the whole way, and he probably didn't lose every round up to that point, right? So he's probably able to win these scorecards. He just, when Tank starts landing, it's usually over. But yes, I think Tank's gonna land, move around early. Now, Ryan can take advantage of this because, like I said, Tank is hittable. He's not a perfect defensive guy. He does have defensive flaws, and more than I think people acknowledge or people really talk about, right? He does have defensive flaws. And when he gets stuck against the ropes, he is hittable, right? He does get hit with the left hook. Like Rolly Romero, if you watch Rolly Romero fight, I thought that was a very telling fight. What Rolly Romero was able to do in that fight, and was just being able to kind of be a little bit unorthodox, but the way he would sprint in and the way he would kind of be able to react with Tank, right? And when you're be able to react like that and show a little bit of athleticism, a little bit of explosiveness to it, I've seen Tank kind of, get hit a lot in that fight. And if you notice one thing about the fight, he never got to settle in that fight. That's one of the very few fights they never settled in with. He never held his ground and started pushing Rolly back or holding the middle of the ring. He never did in that fight. See, what he did was he caught Rolly throwing the same pattern over and again. And I'll get into that. But he never really settled in that fight. Another fight that he really kind of never settled in was Isaac Cruz. Now, what's the two things that these guys have in common? Power, right? So they have some power. Now, I don't know if it's great power. I don't know if it's, elite power or anything like that, but they have power. Tank was never able really to settle in the middle of the ring versus the little guys. He was constantly on the move. And even when he caught Tank, even when he caught Rolly, he was back against the ropes. Interesting thing to think about in this fight with another guy, with Ryan, who has, I believe, elite power. But yes, so Ryan's gonna have to push him back. Now, when Ryan, I think he has the best chance in this fight in the first 4 rounds. I think that's his best opportunity in the fight. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't win going past it, but I'm just saying I think his best chance to land a big shot in this fight is in the first 4 rounds. And the thing with Ryan, I think a lot of people will say, oh, he's got a puncher's chance, And the thing that changes, there's guys that have puncher's chances, and they're usually not skilled, or they usually don't have great ability or great speed. And they're kind of just like, he has a heavy hand, but he doesn't really know how to place it. Ryan knows how to place his shot. And yes, he is a big left hook guy, and a lot of his knockouts come from that punch. But it doesn't mean other punches aren't effective, right? So I think Ryan is going to need to put pressure, but it's the pressure to make Tank react, right? It doesn't mean that you're putting pressure so you're going to explode. No, you're putting pressure as far as positioning, right? It's positioning pressure. I'm getting in your position where you feel uncomfortable, so you have to react. You have to do something. You have to either move, you have to punch, you have to come forward, you have to do something. And when he does that, Ryan is fast enough to react and make you pay for your reaction. See, that's very different. That's a huge advantage to have if you were a guy with power, right? And you were a guy that's trying to land a power shot. The ability to counter. Because you say, oh, this guy, Ryan has bad legs, he's gonna have to chase the whole night. The difference is that if you have to chase if you can't react to what that guy's doing, but you could just follow, because if he has to score points, right, to win the round, then he's gonna have to do something. And when he engages, Ryan will have a great opportunity to counter those things, right? So Ryan has to control his range, control his patience, come in on him, but not overstep, not get too close to Tank, right? And not overwork, right? Not, I'm coming forward, so I'm just gonna start throwing punches. I'm gonna start letting go, because a lot of times you start doing that, you start giving too many openings, right? There's a lot of guys that are very offensively minded, and they give so many openings, and their defense is so much worse because they punch so much. Because when you punch so much, you're giving so many, there's always an opening when you're attacking, right? So when you button mash like that, and I call it button mashing, when you button mash like that, you're always leaving openings because you're working too much. What Ryan needs to do is put forward pressure, but place your shots, but look to make Gervonta Davis react early. Make him feel uncomfortable. Make him work a lot early, right? He's moving around the ring, keep him moving around the ring. Then make him explode into shots. Make him step in and engage with something. And that's what the Ryan has to do. He has to have control. And I've noticed that with Goosen has really done that with him. It's a lot of controlled distance, right? And now we know that Ryan has a defensive flaw, and everybody expects that Tank's gonna knock him out with a big left hand while Ryan backs up with the hands down. Now, if you notice in the Fortuna fight, and it's kind of important that you watch Fortuna fight going into this fight, because Fortuna is the second fight with Goosen. And it's the fight that I think they really got him to settle down and really got him doing what Goosen wants him to do, and that's applying pressure, but also keeping good distance and also keeping his feet active. Now, I hear everybody say Ryan has bad feet. Now, is he, there's a moth right here, I had to slap him real quick. See, I still have my reflex. That's what people don't realize. is that people see me and they say, oh, this guy, his face is broken up, he's 0-1. And you gotta understand I'm dangerous. And that moth just found out right now how dangerous I really am. But with Ryan Garcia's his feet, right, when they're active, they're actually not too bad. Coming straight, he's not gonna move around the ring like Pernell Whitaker. He's not gonna be Floyd Mayweather in there. He's not gonna be Sugar Ray Leonard in there. But when his feet are active, it allows him to keep a distance. And if he fights keeping a distance, it could make up for some of the defensive flaws that he has. Because if he's keeping a distance, then you cannot get to his chin, right? So he has to come in on Tank, taking a step in, but keeping his feet ready to go to back up, to keeping the distance. So Tank has to constantly jump into his range. What Ryan Garcia is going to want to do is make Gervonta Davis jump into his range. He's not going to want to get too close where Gervonta Davis doesn't have to can punch from there and land. He never wants to be in that position. He wants to make Gervonta Davis have to step into range for him while has to come through his left hook, his straight right, an uppercut. He want to make him come through something, right? So if Gervonta Davis comes in to land something, he's taking a big chance where they could end the whole night. And that starts making Tank Davis second guess what he's doing, right? And that might start making him tentative. And it might start making Ryan start winning rounds and Tank being overly cautious. Or it might make Tank get out of position, get caught, and get knocked out. So that's what I'm saying early. You want when Tank's tentative and he doesn't have your timing down yet, you want him to start jumping at that point. You want to have him reacting at that point where he doesn't have what you're doing down. And Ryan does that by stepping in and out, and feints, right? You've got to set up a different pattern. Pushing Tank back, Tank gets against the ropes, I feint. So he can't time what you're coming in. He doesn't know what you're coming in with, and he might have to react and jump at you just because he can't wait there while you're kind of have him at the end of the stick. You know what I mean? He can't have you working while not doing anything, but letting you set up something. No, then I have to react, right? And that's what Ryan has to do. He has to have feints. He has to set up the left hand. Also, you're coming forward, get creative with the left hand, right? We know the left hook's your power shot, but store it at different angles. Get a left uppercut. Go to the body. Get Tank not able to predict where you're coming with it. He knows you're going to come with the left hand, but where is it coming now, right? So that gives him another thing to think about. No, we know Ryan doesn't have, a lot of people say Ryan doesn't have a right hand, and I don't think that's true. I think Ryan has actually a good right hand. I think he has a strong right hand. I think there's power to it. The problem is he doesn't have the timing with it. It's very unnatural, the timing with it. See, his left hand, he's so good with the timing. It's a natural gift that he was, naturally how he boxed, and then he got it more and more skilled over time. And what happened is he was so good with it, he just really focused on it and got really, really good with it, right? Really sharp with it. And the right hand was never really there for him, so he never really used it. See, Ryan's the kind of guy that when he finds something he's good at, he's gonna just overuse it. He's gonna spam it. But I see Goosen working on the right hand. They're trying to get the timing down. And when he landed on to go felt it. And when he landed on Fortuna felt it, right? And there was a shot he landed on to go where he timed it perfectly, right? And when it's timed perfectly, it rocked to go. But he doesn't always time it perfectly. He's not a natural. And that's where the lack of effectiveness comes. It's not that he doesn't have power in that right hand. It's not that he doesn't know how to throw that right hand. He just doesn't understand the timing with it. He's not 100% comfortable. But he's going to have to let it go this fight because he's going to have to switch up the patterns of what he's doing. And if you don't have the timing of it, that means you're probably going to have to throw it more to just start getting the feel of it in the fight and take some chances with it at distance, right? Where you might place it right where you need to be, and especially if Tank's not really looking for it, or Tank's not really, he's more cautious of your left hand. And then when Ryan throws those shots and he places those shots and he places them at distance, he's got to be able to, like I said, react back and go back and forth. Also, the left hook to the body is very important. The left hook that stopped Luke Campbell, the left hook that dropped Fortuna, it's a really important shot because then it gets Tank, who has a habit when he's defending with his hands, he kind of drops his right hand. He drops his right hand to follow the punch where he thinks it's going to go. So if you notice that Tank will do this, he kind of comes at you and he's doing this, and then he will if he thinks you're going to the body, he'll do this. He has a bad habit of doing this. And if Ryan starts landing the left hook to the body, he's going to start being more tentative of where the hand's going. And if Ryan is good enough, he can start hiding the motion where the hook's coming. So maybe the hook looks like it's coming here, but it'll come over the top. Maybe it comes here and it comes straight to an uppercut. Then you place the body. Then you get Tank kind of guessing at what you're going there. So those are things that Ryan needs to implement early in the fight. Now Tank needs to, like I said, move around the ring, not let Ryan set up, not let Ryan come straight forward at him. Switch the the direction points, right? The switch angles on him. So Tank needs to constantly circle Ryan to really test his lateral movement, which I think we all kind of agree that Ryan is not the best with. So if Tank does that early, and then Tank can start reading what Ryan's doing, and if Ryan starts repeating his action, then Tank can start taking advantage of that. Tank just wants to see what is he coming with, what's his game plan, and is Ryan good enough to have a second game plan? Is he good enough to have a second adjustment? That's where Tank wants to get to, and I think that will be around the 5th, 6th round, and I think that my personal opinion that Ryan might really struggle from that point on, because Tank might understand where he's coming from, might understand his game plan, and might have Ryan frustrated at that point, right? Or might have him overly confident. Either way, he's just going to be able to read what he's doing. So if Tank starts to settle in, right, and starts to say, okay, I'm going to hold my ground a little bit more, right, at this point, I think the really important shot for Tank at that point will be a straight left to the body from a southpaw stance, because Ryan's a little straight up, he's a little tall, you know, he fights tall, he fights like that, and Tank can really make him pay for holding his ground and fighting so tall like that to the body and really wear down Ryan, right, and then force Ryan not to want to hold ground, force Ryan to be overly tentative, or force him to move and really bring down his energy. Another thing is that Tank starts to play shots very well. He's one of the best at placing shots. He has some of the best balance in boxing and some of the best coordination and speed and power, everything. This dude's one of the most gifted fighters in boxing. If he gets in a comfortable spot where he feels like he can start placing shots, Ryan's guard isn't tactical enough to really prevent Tank from being as creative as he wants to be. And once he starts placing shots and placing wherever he wants, Ryan could be in a lot of trouble. Now, we know that you could follow Ryan out, and sometimes he drops hands, exactly in the Luke Campbell fight. But if you watch a lot of his fights, the shot doesn't land that much. As much as you would expect for when people bring it up so much, right? You would expect that Ryan would pull back, hand drop, and he gets land a lot. It doesn't. Now, I don't know, it's because when guys go in there with Ryan and they feel his power, it kind of changes their mentality, right? A lot of guys, when they go in there Ryan and they feel his power, they kind of give up the motivation to win a fight. You know, I think a similar thing happens with Tank in the second half of a fight. You start feeling shots and you're like, okay, maybe I'm not gonna be able to withstand this, so maybe I gotta kind of go in self-protection mode. And we've seen that with Ryan. Basically, through most of the guys he's fought, have kind of went through, either got knocked out or went to self-protection. Went through, I'm just gonna make it to the scorecards. I'm just not gonna get hurt by this kid. So maybe that's why guys haven't really took advantage. I also think that to chase the most obvious shot like that, which Ryan knows you're going to go after, and he knows when you're stepping back what you're coming for, is kind of might be a little bit too predictable on Tank's part. I think the shots that be really effective for Tank is his right hook, the one he landed on Barrios. Because if you can get Ryan to get too tentative and start getting trigger happy with the left hand, you can follow his left hand with the right over. And Ryan's so fast with his left hand, he's so aggressive with it, he's not going to get his hand back right away. So if he comes here, Tank's just going to follow over with a shot right on Garcia's chin, and he doesn't have to take the full reach of his whole body coming from the right side of his back foot. You know what I mean? It's just the shot's already there, and he can jump in with that shot. Also allows him to keep an angle on the outside, right? I think that there's also elements that Tank could do, like maybe, you know, Ryan is good at reacting. Like I said, he's very fast, a lot of power. But if you get on the inside of Ryan, I think you can really highlight maybe some of the holes in his defense and the holes in his offense, possibly, right? Just a different element of the game that you never really see Ryan in is in an inside fight like that. In a fight where Tank's on the inside to him, and Tank's more, I think, tighter with his game at that point, right? He's more tighter with his leg movement, he's more balanced, and he might really be able to use the angles and turn Ryan, get in on Ryan, really make him pay with his, what is that word, look for a word, make Ryan pay with his compact shots, with his compact offense, because Ryan's not going to have that. And on the inside, I think it's really be highlighted. So I think on the inside, it would really highlighted that he'll have a lot of flaws in that. I don't think Ryan wants to be there. Where's another thing that I did want to talk about, I don't want to stop this before I talk about it. It's if Ryan, after the 4th round, right, when Tank makes his adjustment, a curious thing to see is Ryan doesn't have really, I've never seen him have stamina issues, and his power usually carries. Usually when Tank fights a guy, I think there is, like I said, there's stamina issues there where he kind of like lets the guy tire out. If you remember the Rolly Romero fight, he says in the corner like, oh, we're still strong, right? So he was kind of holding off till really kind of slowed down a little bit. He thought he would waste more energy, and then he'd be able to take advantage of that. And if Ryan never slows down, and we get to about the fifth, sixth round, still a competitive fight, and Tank makes his adjustment, does Ryan have the adjustment in him? And what would that adjustment look like? And I think a possible thing of that adjustment is you kind of don't want Tank to be able to hold the middle ring. So you kind of have to push him back, right? And if you have to push him back, Ryan would kind of have to become the aggressor. Now, he's still going to do that, like how I was saying, where he still keeps the back step so he can react. But I think that's when he starts really going to the body, right? And if you Tank is accepting a move around the ring like he was against Rolly, I think Ryan has to start using the jab to really push Tank back and keep him honest, but the right hand has to come right behind it to keep the distance. You got to put offense on him that keeps the distance, that doesn't allow Tank to really sit on something that you're coming in on with. You don't want to come in while he's sitting on something and then you can walk into his counter. You want Tank to have to reach in. You want him to have to leap in. You want him to have to jump in. You want him to have to make a motion to come in to cover range, right? So if Ryan's putting pressure, he wants to put pressure with a distance, and that's with with his jab and his right hand, and the left hook ready to react, or jab right hand, and then if you're gonna get all the way in, that left hook to the body. See, those are the things that we have to see. Where I don't think people expect that from Ryan, but I think that's what that would look like if Ryan doesn't really fall off, if he doesn't have an energy dump, and we have to see with the weigh-ins and the rehydration things if that has any effect on him. We don't know if it is or it isn't. We'll have to find out the night of. But if he doesn't have that. I think that's what kind of like that fight looks like. It looks like Tank moving around the ring, looking to counter, looking for Ryan to get overconfident, to step too close into range. And it looks like, for me, Ryan doing more jabs, straight rights, and looking to set up his counter left, but looking to disguise the body shot. I think that's what that fight looks like at that point. I think that's the most interesting and surprising outcome, right, that happens, is a good technical fight later in the fight where it's like Ryan applying pressure, Tank fighting smart off the back foot, and just, real cautious, but real like edge of your seat type action. It's be funny if this fight doesn't have maybe the action we want, but I still think that even if it doesn't have the action that you want, it's still gonna be exciting all the way through, just because the fight can end at any moment. And I'm really curious to see if that happens, because if Tank gets to the middle of the ring and he can't hold the middle of the ring, and he still has to move back because Ryan still has his power and he still has energy, I think that could be a good tactical fight. I think people don't really know what Ryan's capable of in the ring. I think that he's capable of a lot more than what people want to give him credit for. And I think Tank is an elite fighter. They could fight off the back foot like he fought against Isaac Cruz. Maybe it's not his most effective style, but it's definitely a good ability he has, and he's not a below average fighter doing it. That's for sure. The odds aren't as wide as people talk about this fight, and I think this fight is a 50-50 fight, even though the odds aren't 50-50. But I think when I say 50-50 fight, this is just two top guys that I can see both guys winning, right? I can see that it's a debatable on who wins the fight. That's, for me, what a 50-50 fight is. I don't really give a damn if the odds say, oh no, it's wide this way. If it's two top guys and they're at the top of their game, and it's debatable on who could win this fight, I think that's a 50-50 fight, and I think that's what this is. I don't think this fight should be I don't think this fight should be something that we just like, oh, it's just a joker. No, I think it's a very serious fight. I think it's two top guys at that 135-pound, 140-pound weight limit. As far as like, how do I really see this fight playing out? Those are the strategies I think that will be used, and there's techniques that I think could be effective in this fight. How does it really look? I think Ryan's gonna come out early. I think Tank's gonna be, like I said, he's gonna be moving around. But I think at some point, Tank falls into habits that we don't really talk about, that are kind of, defensive flaws and kind of predictable, where he's going to try to explode with shots, especially when he gets against the ropes, right? And he will take chances, one shot at a time, and hit, then move, and then until he really settles in. But he's not as effective with his offense early, and his defense isn't effective early, and he does get hit. He does get hit with the left hook, and his guard isn't 100% foolproof. And I think that there'll be points of exchanges early. And I think Ryan's going to be confident early, and he's going to be at his best early. And I think that he will catch Tank coming in. I think Tank is the shorter fighter. I think he has to cover a lot of range. I think he's very explosive. I think he truly believes in his power, but it takes a little time to get his timing. I don't think it takes Ryan that long to get his timing. I think Ryan's pretty confident with that left hand and where he's placing it. If he starts feeling the right hand and he's a little more confident with the right hand, then I think Tank's really in trouble early. And I think Tank will have to kind of survive a real onslaught early. And if he gets into that second half of the fight, like I said, Ryan will struggle at that point because I don't think he has the adjustment in this game. I think it kind of gets more predictable as offense. But in the first half of the fight, in the first 4 rounds of the fight, I think Ryan's going to be at his sharpest. And I think he'll be sharper earlier than Tank will be. And I think Tank is going to feel that power at one point. And I think it's because Ryan's going to be I think Ryan's going to be very confident going into this fight. He's going to want Tank to exchange with him. He's going to want Tank to make some moves offensively. And I think that if he jumps in and Ryan catches him with the left hand and maybe he disguises it, I think the fight could be over early. Like I said, this fight could end early, could end in the first round. That, to me, doesn't mean one of the guys is a bum or not. This is just the type of matchup it is. This is 2 elite speed, elite power guys who really go for the knockout and can counterpunch. In that type of fight, it could end at any moment. That's what's so exciting about it. But I don't think the guy's a bum. And I think even if Ryan loses, right? Say Tank goes in there and knocks him out in the first round. It's a duel. This is an old Western duel. That's really what it is. It's a duel. The 2 guys, they march to 10 steps, turn around, and the fastest shot wins. I really believe this is one of those fights where the guy that lands the first big shot is possibly the winner of this fight. It's possibly over at that point. I really think that's what this is. I don't think that means one guy's trash or not. That's just the 2 styles. And that's why I will give all respect to Tank, even if he blows out Ryan in this fight, because I know the level of opponent that Ryan is. I know the level of talent that Ryan has. And the gifts he has does not make him an easy opponent. I think this is going to be a very, very, very exciting fight for however long it lasts. It's going to be very interesting to see how Ryan and Tank deal with something they've never dealt with in the ring before when it comes with that elite speed, that elite power, and that elite talent. I'm going with Ryan. I think he's going to get a 3rd round knockout. I know that I'm probably the only guy or one of the few that's going to make that pick. And I know that people say, I have some wild picks out there, I guess. Or, I was on a cold streak, I broke it. But people still, I know they're going to run with it. I think Ryan's going to land. I think he's going to be sharper early. I think he's going to be looser early, and I think he's going to catch it. I think that Ryan always is sharper early in fights. He's knocked out guys really early in fights because he knows how to place that left hand. He's very, very confident in it, and he's very quick with it, and he could counter. That's the whole part. It's like he's not a one-punch guy because a one-punch guy doesn't have this kind of timing. He doesn't have this kind of counter-punching. A one-punch guy that you're thinking of is a guy that just throws and with his eyes closed and hopes that he lands an overhand right that slows molasses. But if he touches you, he can knock you out. Let me try something. A lot of people have power. A lot of people have power. There's a lot of people in the gym they are no good. They have power. Ryan is not a one-punch guy. He's not a puncher's chance guy. He's not that. Ryan has some actual ability. And you could see it here. If the Ryan catches Tank early, it puts him to sleep. It's not by luck. It's by ability. He's not a puncher's chance guy.